Hi guys, good morning everyone. Namaste. Welcome back to Cap Classes. This is part 2 of RTP for Group 1 Accounting May 2021. So in the previous video, we have seen Accounting Standard 1, Accounting Standard 2, then Accounting Standard 10, okay, Accounting Standard 11. So we have seen kind of 8 problems. Now we'll start with the balance. Okay, 19A, accounting for government grants. Frequently asked questions in the exam. Very important. Listen carefully. 19A1, Hygiene Limited had received a grant of rupees 50 lakhs in 2012. Seriously, long back. 50 lakhs from state government towards installation of pollution control machinery on fulfillment of certain conditions. Okay, underline conditional. This government grant is not absolute, it is subject to conditions. So conditional grant you received to comply with certain ABC things. The company, however, failed to comply. Oh my god, when you fail to comply, what will happen? You need to refund the government grant. They will take the money back or they will take the asset back, as the case may be. Remember, it is an extraordinary event as per Accounting Standard 5. In your Accounting Standard 5, extraordinary events, they have given refund of government grant as extraordinary event. If you write that in the answer, you will get better impression. Okay. The company, however, failed to comply with the said conditions and consequently was required to refund the said amount in 2020. So you had to refund this. Very good. The company debited the said amount to its machinery account in 2020 on payment of the same. You paid 50, so you added that to machinery. It also reworked the depreciation for the said machinery from the date of its purchase. Hello. Ruko, bhai sahab, ruko. Wait, what the hell you are talking? It also reworked. Up to this, whatever they have done is correct. It also reworked the depreciation for the said machinery from the date of purchase and passed necessary adjusting entries in the year 2020 to incorporate retrospective impact of the same. Who asked you to give retrospective effect for depreciation, which is wrong? Many students do not know what this is. Ayyo. State whether the treatment done by the company is correct or not. Write down answer. 1. It is government grant relating to acquisition of fixed asset based on certain conditions. So when you receive government grant on fixed assets, government grant on fixed depreciable fixed assets, you have two options. One is you can follow capital approach. Second one is you can follow income approach. If you follow capital approach, you will increase the fixed asset value. You will decrease fixed asset value. So when you receive cash account debit, government grant, whatever the amount is, cash account debit to fixed asset account, this is the journal entry you will pass. If it is income approach, you will recognize a deferred government grant account and you will show it in your balance sheet under liability side. From this, you will take little portions based on the number of years to your P&L. So then the journal entry will be cash account debit to deferred government grant account. Or you can say government grant deferral account also. Okay, but popularly they call it deferred government grant account. So what is the approach followed by the company? Looking at the language of the problem, the company followed this approach. Looking at the language of the problem, the company followed this approach because clearly they are saying that the grant refunded is adjusted to the book value of the asset. So obviously it is first approach. So when you follow the first approach, in case of refund of government grant, because you couldn't comply with the conditions, you have to give refund of government grant. Then what is the journal entry you pass? Reversal of this. What is that? Fixed asset account debit to cash being government grant refunded and fixed asset account debited. This is the journal entry. Company passed this journal entry correct. So up to this, excellent, dear company, you have done a fantastic job. Up to this it is correct. Then what they said, from 2012 to 2020, from the purchase of the asset, they went back and retrospectively, they changed the depreciation 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all the years depreciations figures they changed, they recalculated based on the new cost, and the effect is given in 2020, which is a super duper nonsense. Beta, as per accounting standard 12, in case of refund of government grant, when the company elected capital approach and the refund is debited to the fixed asset, depreciation shall be charged on the new carrying amount prospectively. Underline prospectively, underline prospectively, underline. Retrospective depreciation, nowhere it is stated. It is not there in accounting standard 16 also. It is not there in government grant also. Because now a change in method of depreciation is not an accounting policy. No, a change in method of depreciation is also accounting estimate. Basically, this is not change in accounting policy also. You had to refund government grant. You have given money to government and you increased the fixed asset, which is as per accounting standard 12. But depreciation retrospectively calculating and giving the adjustment effect to 2020 current year is not as per accounting standard 12. So charge depreciation on this asset prospectively. Question is over. Answer is also over. Pawan sir, we'll go to second part. Okay. ABC Limited receives 2 acres of land received for setup of a plant. Hold on. 2 acres of land. Land is non-depreciable asset. So if it is a non-depreciable asset, the credit should go to capital reserve, promoter contribution, capital reserve. Then they received 2 acres of land without paying money. Any government grant received in the form of a kind, in the form of an asset, completely free of cost, the asset still should be recognized with nominal value. So what will be journal entry? Land account debit to capital reserve, credit to, very good. Nominal amount can be 1000 rupees or nominal amount can be 1 lakh rupees, whatever you feel. That's all. This is what you need to do. Then it also received 2 lakhs. Oh my god, super duper company. It got 2 acres of land and then it got 2 lakhs received for purchase of machinery of 10 lakhs. So what is the cost of machine? 10 lakhs. What is the government grant received? 2 lakhs. Useful life of machine is 5 years. Okay. Depreciation on this machinery is to be charged on straight line basis. Okay. What is the depreciation? 10 lakhs divided by 5 is 2 lakhs. But Pawan sir, just now you said in case of depreciable assets and in case of government grant on depreciable assets, we have 2 approaches. One is a capital approach, one is income approach. Sir, we need to show everything. When you open answer for this question, they have given completely descriptive. They have given Ramayana Mahabharata. So the everything, whatever the accounting treatment they have given in the solution is perfectly right. ICI book, no, but you will not understand why it is. Like John Keats, La Belle et Sans Merci, William Wordsworth, Daffodils. Sir, we cannot understand accounting standard 12. How will we understand literature, sir? Please tell me. Answer, sir. Okay. So cost of the asset is 10 lakhs. Government grant is 2 lakhs. Now you can follow 2 approaches, capital approach and income approach. If you follow capital approach, net cost of the asset is 8 lakhs. On 8 lakhs, you will charge depreciation. 8 lakhs divided by 5 years is equal to 1.6 lakhs. So first entry will be FA account to CA account. Fixed asset account debit to cash account. 10 lakhs, 10 lakhs. Second entry will be you received government grant, cash account debit to government grant account. So cash account debit to fixed asset account, sorry. So in fixed asset ledger account 10 debit, 2 credit, so 8 debit. On that 8 debit you will charge depreciation. This is called net approach, or this is called capital approach, balance sheet approach. This is one method. Second method is show fixed asset at 10 lakhs only. Then you will write first journal entry, fixed asset account debit to cash account, 10 lakhs, 10 lakhs. When you receive government grant, you will write cash account debit 2 lakhs to DGG account 2 lakhs. Then depreciation will be provided on 10 lakhs. 10 lakhs divided by 5 years is equal to 2 lakhs depreciation. Then this deferred government grant 2 lakhs will be in balance sheet under liability side. This also based on the life of the asset should be taken to P&L. So 2 lakhs divided by 5 years is equal to 40,000. This will be taken to P&L. How? DGG account debit to P&L account. DGG account debit to P&L account 40,000. You will show it as other income. So effectively what is happening, first P&L you are charging to depreciation 1.6 lakhs. In second method, you are showing P&L to depreciation 2 lakhs by deferred government grant amortization 0.4 lakhs. Effectively, there also 1.6 debit. That's all. First one is capital approach. Second one is income approach. That is the answer. This question is over. We'll go to next question. Question number 13. Accounting for investments. How many times this model is asked in the exams, I cannot even tell you. If they are asking question, this is a regular model. In ICA study material it is there, old syllabus practice manual it is there, in CA final it is there, everywhere it is there. What is this? Are you kidding me, dear ICI? No. Hello, anyway. So, fine. Question number, what happened to that? Did I touch any wrong button? ICI is hurt. Yes, here we are. Accounting for investments. Paridhi Electronics, oh my god, super name. Paridhi Electronics Limited invested in the shares of Dhanshuk Limited on 1st May 2020 at a cost of 10 lakhs. So what is cost of investment? 10 lakhs. What is the journal entry? Investment account debit to cash account 10 lakh, 10 lakh. 3/4 of the investments were current investments. Oh, 10 lakh rupees. So total cost of investment how much? 10 lakhs. Okay, in that they have given the classification. 3/4 is current. So in this 3/4 is current investment. Current investment is 7,50,000. Then balance 1/4 is non-current investment. NCI is not non-controlling interest. Okay, don't go to consolidation. Non-current or long-term. For you it is long-term investment. This is better now. Okay, 2,50,000. Pawan sir, why this classification is required? Because beta, in case of current investment, the valuation rule is cost or fair value on balance sheet date, whichever is lower. This is also known as mark to market. Cost or fair value, whichever is lower. Here valuation rule is cost minus provision for decrease in the value of investment if it is for a reason other than temporary nature. That means permanent fall. Pawan sir, we invested money in S-Bank shares. S-Bank shares were 200 rupees. This is the example I give in my regular batch also. S-Bank share, when it was 200 rupees, I invested. Now S-Bank share is 14 rupees. S-Bank share is 14 rupees. I invested in S-Bank when it is 450 rupees. Now it is 14 rupees. I sold. That is a different story. So do you think this 14 will go back to 450 again? No way. No way. I am seeing S-Bank for the last 7-8 years. So this fall is a permanent fall. It is not a temporary fall. So you have to create a provision and you need to reduce the cost. So what is the valuation rule? If it is current investment, cost or fair value, market value, whichever is lower. If it is long-term investment, it is cost minus if there is any decline which is other than because of a temporary reason, other than temporary reason, that means permanent reason, then you have to create a provision for a decrease and you need to reduce the cost of the investment. That provision should be charged to P&L. Okay, and the remaining investments were intended to be held for more than 1 year. That means long term. That is what I have taken. The published accounts of Dhanshuk Limited received in Jan reveals that the company has incurred cash losses with the decline in market share, and investment of Paridhi Electronics may not fetch more than 7,50,000. We invested money in one company. That company released financial statements. In that, they have cash losses and a decline in market share. So that could be a long-term effect. You cannot say, हाँ sir, हो जाएगा sir, 1-2 दिन में again money will come up. No. Because of this, my 10 lakhs investment has fallen to 7,50,000. That means 75% value. That means 75% value. So here, cost how much? 7,50,000. Market value how much? 7,50,000 in that 75%. It is 5,62,500. Whichever is lower. So you need to take this as book value now. So the value of your investment is 5,62,500 only. So the balance 1,87,500 is there, no? This is loss to be taken to P&L. In this case, cost 2,50,000. There is a decrease by 25%. 2,50,000 into 25%. Pawan sir, is this temporary? No. So you have to reduce that. 1,87,500 is the cost. So the 62,500 will go to P&L as a provision or loss. So total 10 lakh investment, in that 2.5 lakh will go to P&L as loss. 7.5 lakh will be the closing value of investments. Both current and non-current investments put together 7.5. Breakup also I have given. In the answer, ICI did not give the breakup. So all these calculations, for your understanding, I have done extra. Okay, ICI has written simple 1-para answer. Even if you write that answer also, you will get full marks. But this is actual better way of understanding the situation. You understand? Borrowing cost. When capitalization of, next question number 28. When capitalization of borrowing cost cease. Oh my God. As per accounting standard 16, explain in brief. If you are my regular student, do you remember this in accounting standard 16? This is called commencement of capitalization. That is satisfaction of 3 conditions. That is commencement of capitalization. This is cessation of capitalization. So this is start capitalizing borrowing cost. This is stop capitalizing borrowing cost. Here you can capitalize, but there is one exception. Here, if there is any holding, that means stoppage of the work because of abnormal reason. So this is capital work on hold. Is it normal reason? Is it abnormal reason? What is normal reason? Like, maybe heavy rain. Maybe you are constructing a bridge and on the river, and the water level of the river is too high and it is flowing fast, which is disturbing the construction work. So you have to wait for 4 days. Your engineer said that is normal reason. Abnormal. Strike. Labor strike. Because of that, 10 days you couldn't work. That is abnormal reason. So if the work is halted, suspended because of normal reason, continue capitalization. But if it is due to abnormal reason, that particular 10 days in our example is there, no? Can't be capitalized. Borrowing cost for this period can't be capitalized. Charge it to P&L. Basics of costing. Anything that is normal include in cost. Anything that is abnormal include in loss. Anything that is normal, cost. Anything that is abnormal, loss. Loss cannot be included in cost of production or cost of asset, no. So charge it to P&L. That is what it is. But now the question is, they are not asking about this, they are not asking about this, they are asking about this. But Pawan sir, if they are asking about when capitalization of borrowing cost is to be seized, why you told this full story, Pawan sir? Revision, 2 minute में revision हो जाए. Now this is important. So the standard uses a beautiful phrase here. When the construction is substantially, when the construction is substantially complete, that means there are minor pending works are there, but still the construction is over. AS16 never used the word when the construction is complete. Borrowing cost capitalization should be stopped and subsequent borrowing cost should be taken to P&L. No, beta, AS16 did not tell that. AS16 told you that in case of substantial completion of, that means almost major part is done. Pawan sir, some minor pending works are there, Pawan sir. For example, putting tiles is still pending. Some work on the roof is still pending. This electrical fittings and all is still pending. Fixing the elevators, lift, installation of lift is still pending. All these are minor administrative works. Even if these are pending also, still we can say that the construction of the building is substantially complete. The construction of building is substantially complete. Then stop capitalizing borrowing cost. That is what the answer is. But there is one more beautiful addition to the answer. If you do not write this line, you will lose 2 marks. If the asset is completed in parts, say for example, there is one big group housing where they have 8 towers. This is diamond tower, this is gold tower, this is sapphire tower, this is solitaire tower, this is yellow sapphire tower, this is ruby tower. Like that, there are different towers. Each tower consists of, say for example, 200 apartments. So they borrowed for this project, they borrowed 800 crores. In that, this particular part is complete. One tower is complete. Remaining still going on. So borrowing cost proportionately for this completed unit should be calculated, and that capitalization of borrowing cost should be stopped. Say for example, your interest rate is 10%, 800 crores you borrowed, at 10%, 80 crores is your borrowing cost. Borrowing cost kitna hai? 80 crores hai. 80 crores is your borrowing cost. In this, 1 tower out of 8 is complete. 7 towers out of 8 are construction going on, or ongoing projects. So out of this 80 crores into 1 by 8 is equal to 10 crores. This should be charged to P&L. Here 80 crores into 7 by 8 is equal to 70 crores can be capitalized. That means fixed asset, in fixed asset add this. This answer is also given at the end if you do not write this answer. In case of completion of a part of the project which can be utilized independent of the remaining parts of the project, in that case the entity has to cease capitalizing the borrowing cost proportionately. This is the principle, this is the explanation. Sir, again, your vocabulary and terminology is good, but we are not that good, sir. What to do? Don't worry, if you get 60, 70, it is enough now. You don't need to get 100 out of 100. If you are targeting 100 out of 100, the language I speak should be the language you also speak. The language I write should be the language you write. Then you will get 90s, 100s. Sir, 100 is possible. My student got in CA final 100. Only one student in the history that I am privileged to have a student like that. Even I, do not remember that I taught her also. One fine day she has sent a mark list. I'm like, what? Is this even possible humanly? I will not take the credit. She must be a hardworking girl and she got 100 out of 100 in CA final, old syllabus FR. Great girl. So it is an example. I'm not saying I taught she got 100. No, she was my old student. She got 100. It is because of her ability, her credit, but it is a fact and a live example that getting 100 is also possible. That she got in final. We got 90s in finals, no? So you getting 19 enter is not a big deal. Sir, in foundation only I got 49.99% and on humanitarian grounds ICA I put that 0.001 and I passed with 200 marks, sir. No comments. Now we'll go to last question. The most important and killer question, that is foreign currency adjustment to borrowing cost capitalization. Probably I cannot say the toughest or the most complex, but having said that, it is, yes, many lecturers will skip this question also in accounting standard 16 if they are teaching CA intermediate, because inter students cannot easily understand it. But this question is given in ICI study material. This question is given in RTP also. That means this question can come in the exam also. Foreign currency adjustment to borrowing cost. So if you recollect accounting standard 16 borrowing cost, if you read borrowing costs are, the definition is there, no? At the end there is one phrase, foreign currency exchange losses to the extent they are permitted to be, to the extent they are permitted to be included in the borrowing cost. That means total foreign currency exchange losses cannot be treated as borrowing cost, cannot be capitalized. But there is one portion which is permitted. What is that? देखेंगे accounting standard 11 question number 20B. Shan Builders Limited has borrowed a sum of US dollars 10 lakhs. Oh my god. At the beginning of financial year 1920 for its residential project at 4%. So you took foreign currency loan 10 lakh US dollars at a rate of 4% interest. This is actual loan. The interest is payable at the end of the financial year, obviously. At the time of availment, exchange rate was 56 and the rate as on 31st March is 62. So on the date of loan, on the date of borrowing, 1 USD is equal to 56 rupees. On balance sheet date, 1 US dollar is equal to 62. So obviously this foreign currency loan is a monetary item, no? So that is to be revalued. So closing liability is equal to 10 lakh US dollars into 62. That is equal to how much? 10 lakh US dollars into 62. That is equal to 62 crores, no, 6.2 crores, 6.20 crores. Okay, or you can write 620 lakhs. You can write 620 lakhs. Okay. Then Original liability, how much? Original liability, how much? 10 lakhs into 56, that is equal to 560 lakhs. So 620 minus 560, why am I calculating? It should be 80. Not 80. So don't be overconfident, okay? Sir, lunch time, sir. So 620 minus 560, how much? 60 lakhs. What is this? This is foreign currency exchange loss on foreign currency loan. There is foreign currency loan. On that, there is a loss of 60 lakhs. Pawan sir, we'll do one thing, Pawan sir. Add this 60 lakhs in value of the asset, Pawan sir. With this foreign currency loan, you might have bought one asset, no? Capitalize this 60 lakhs, beta, that is not allowed. 60 lakhs is not allowed. How much is allowed, you know? Foreign currency exchange loss, comma, to the extent of difference between interest on foreign currency loan and interest on foreign currency loan and interest on domestic loan, local currency loan, domestic loan, had it been borrowed in India, can be capitalized. Pawan sir, I did not understand, Pawan sir. Foreign currency exchange loss to the extent of difference between interest on foreign currency loan, which is actual. This is actual. Interest on foreign currency loan is the reality, actual. Interest on domestic loan is notional. You are just calculating for the sake of adjustment. Actually, there is no domestic loan, but had the money been borrowed in India, what would have been the interest payable? So, Pawan sir, tell it something easily, Pawan sir. Step 1, calculate interest on domestic loan, assuming that the amount is borrowed in India. Assuming that amount is borrowed in India. But in reality, did they borrow money in India? No. Assume that the money is borrowed in India. Now read the balance question. If Shan Builders Limited had borrowed the loan in India in Indian rupees equivalent, the pricing of loan would have been 10.50. Oh my god. So 10.50 will be interest payable. See, Indian bank giving loan at 10.5. American bank giving loan at 4%. So you went and borrowed money in America. Then what happened? Exchange loss happened. Congratulations to you now. You can borrow from State Bank of India now. Why you borrowed from Bank of America? Once we have posh people, you know, we borrow money only from America. Okay, exchange loss will be there. Then you need to do this problem also. So if you borrow money that day, 10 lakh US dollars at a rate of 56 into 10.50, this is the interest. That day, if you borrow money in India, how much you have to borrow? You borrowed 10 lakh US dollars at 56 rupees, no? So same equivalent Indian currency loan that day is 10 lakhs into 56 into 10.5%. It is 58.80 lakhs. This is interest payable on domestic loan. Step 1. Step 2. Interest on foreign currency loan. This is actual. So Pawan sir, 10 lakh US dollars I borrowed, Pawan sir, into 4 by 100 I need to pay, Pawan sir. But at the end of the year, when you pay interest, the loan exchange rate is 62. You'll pay interest at the end of the year, no? At the end of the year, at 62 rupees you need to pay. How much you borrowed? 10 lakhs. What is the interest rate? 4%. That will give 10 lakhs into 4% will give you US dollar interest, no? 10 lakhs into 4%. 40,000 US dollars you need to pay. But to that, you need to calculate into 62. That is equal to 24.80 lakhs. Step 3 difference is equal to step 1 minus step 2. वो कितना है 58.8 minus 24.8 is equal to 34. This is the borrowing cost. This is the foreign currency loss that can be capitalized. So step 4, total foreign currency exchange loss is equal to 60 lakhs, calculated as above. Working note already we have done. So this we calculated, no? 60 lakhs is the total foreign currency loss. 60 lakhs. In that permitted portion of above, that can be capitalized. 34 lakhs as per step 3. So balance 26 lakhs, 60 minus 34. 26 lakhs. This is borrowing cost that should be recognized in P&L account. Super question now. Again secret, see a final question. This, I am telling you, if I am preparing question paper, I will give this. There cannot be more prudent answer. If I am giving question paper, if I am writing the exam as a student, I will prepare this answer. Okay, so for your better understanding, I am telling you, for your better understanding. So this foreign currency exchange loss 60 is there, no? For this, what is the journal entry? Foreign currency exchange loss account debit 60 lakhs to foreign currency loan account 60 lakhs. Why we are writing this? Because foreign currency loan is a monetary item. So we have to revalue. Now this 60 is there, no? If AS16 involvement is not there, AS16 is putting finger. If AS16 is not putting finger, this 60 will go to P&L. Next journal entry will be P&L account debit to foreign currency exchange loss account 60, khatam. But because AS16 is coming into the picture, we will write entry like this. Fixed asset account debit. Oh my God. So this is borrowing cost capitalized, which is difference between domestic currency and foreign currency loan interest. What is the borrowing cost that can be capitalized? The difference between domestic currency loan interest and foreign currency loan interest. वो कितना है? 60 lakhs. That is 34 lakhs. No, this is not debit. No, this is fixed. No, it is not here. What am I writing? 34, correct. This is journal entry 1. यहाँ तक journal entry 1 हो गया. This is journal entry 2. Fixed asset account debit 36 lakhs. 36 or 34? Hello, Mr. Pavan, you are hungry. What is that? 34 or 36? It is 34 only. My system is also not listening to me. Hello, dear Eraser G, come. No, Eraser is not coming. So write down fixed asset account debit 34. Fixed asset account debit 34. P&L account debit 24. 2. Foreign currency exchange loss account 60. So this 60 lakhs loss, out of that 36 is capitalized into the fixed asset value, remaining 24 is taken to P&L account. So you can say here balance loss. Total loss is 60. In that can be capitalized is 36. Balance is 24. Super questions, no? I hope you enjoyed it. This is a series of RTP, questions. So this is our part 2. We'll come with part 3 soon. Keep watching. Good luck.